Welcome to Impact the World, a podcast from West Park Baptist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. This is where we discuss topics related to how we can all love God, love people, and impact the world. Here's your host, Tara Hayes.
Welcome. I am your host, Tara Hayes, and I'm sitting down with the self-proclaimed co-host, Jake Bishop.
I'm here.
He's here. He's ready.
The Tara and Jake Show.
The Tara and Jake Show. Someday we're going to take it on the road. No, today we're going to revisit a subject that we had last year. I think we're going to make this a quarterly episode of books you should read.
My favorite thing to talk about.
Jake could do a weekly books you should read. We're going to limit him to quarterly.
Yeah.
But so, Jake, it's the beginning of 2023.
It is.
What do you have for us this year?
So this is my top 5, which is really 7 best
It's
books.
not about math, clearly.
I have to cheat every time. The best books I read in 2022. And so some clarifications. These books, I think maybe 1 or 2 of them came out in 2022, but these are just
Some of them did not.
Some of them did not. So these are just that I read in 2022. And this is, I will say I don't know. It's a good. These are the 5, and like maybe what that means the best. I don't know if that means it's not necessarily the best.
The funnest to read.
Yeah. Here's how I guess I went by that. Was I thought back of I looked back at the list of the books I read, and what were the ones that stuck out to me of I'm still thinking about that, or there was something that really changed.
They really made an impact.
Yeah, for this year, it changed my thinking. I can see that influence on me.
Oh, cool.
Right? So it not necessarily there were other books that maybe I liked better even, or I was better written or whatever. But these were the ones that now looking back over a year, a lot of these I read 12 months ago.
They made a difference.
Yeah, they made a difference. I'm still thinking about
Okay,
them.
so inquiring minds.
Yeah.
Mine. How many books? Do you know how many books you read in 2022?
Yeah, so my goal was 52. So just
one
a week. Yeah, which is I've been lower than that. I've been much higher than that. It just kind of depends on so this year it's 52.
Depends on the number of children you have.
Children and I'm in a doctoral program this year, so they're assigning
that's
books.
A third child.
They're assigning books, and that some of those aren't the ones that they're not necessarily the ones that I'm
choose.
So 52 is my goal. We're actually recording this on December 8th, and I think I have 2 more to go. So I'm on pace. So 52. So I'll read around.
You'll hit it.
I'll read around 52. So I got to go find some short stuff. So yeah.
I'm sure you can do it.
Yeah. So out of the so these are the top 10%, right?
Okay.
So for me, thinking back on this year.
Very good.
So, all right. It's just a rule. I can't do a list without a Tim Keller book, right? No. So this is, and I'm going to help if you want to maybe do. So I think my goal this in 2023. I think it's going to be 52 again. If you want to do that, so here set a goal. Okay, that's what I encourage everyone listening. Set a goal. Maybe it's 52. Maybe it's 10.
Maybe
right?
it's 2.
Maybe it's 100. 100 is one that I've never been able to hit.
Wow.
I've gotten close, but I want to hit 100 at some point. Set some kind of goal. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you a book here that's going to help you on that goal because it's about 30 pages long and you can read it in about 45 minutes.
There you go.
So this is Tim Keller, The Freedom of Self-Forgetfulness. And so this is a little tiny book. I think you can probably get it online for $1 or $2. I think they turned a sermon of his into a book.
Oh, okay.
But it's sold 100,000.
Wow.
It's a lot. It's so there's a number on there. It's a lot. It's because it is so helpful. And this one, so I've read it many times in the past because I read Tim Keller stuff a lot. And I was teaching at a camp in Colorado to a youth group that a buddy of mine leads. And he was like, "Hey, we need a book. We need something for them just to read for this camp." And I suggested this. And then at the camp, I'm like, well, I've already read this, whatever. But I sat down and read it, and it just rocked my world again. Because, again, the freedom of self-forgetfulness is all about, humility, how to take our eyes off ourselves, right? What does that look like? And so it's practical, it's short, it's punchy, it's good, it's Tim Keller, it's all the things. And so, look, take that, get that. You can read it in 45 minutes to an hour. And you got one book for the year, right? That's good.
There you
so,
go.
yes, that was number 1.
Okay.
Freedom of self-forgetfulness. Number 2, This is for parents mostly. This is the best parenting book that I've ever read. It's by Justin Whitmel Earley, and it's called Habits of the Household. And so he had written another book called The Common Rule that came out a few years ago, a spiritual formation book that was really good. And he wrote this one, Habits of the Household. And he has, I think, 4 young boys.
Oh, wow.
And the thing about it, the thing that I remember about it, like I'm going to revisit it. There's some good tips in there, some things that we've applied to raising kids. The thing that I remember about it, though, looking back, is just the tone. It's so just like, there's, to be honest, like there's some parenting books that I read and I'm like, you're not raising kids. Like you've like you have never, or your kids are not my kids. Like what in the world? Like
you're raising angels over
that's
there.
so unrealistic, but I love it. Like he has this chapter on doing family devotionals. And then he talks about all the ways his kids mess it up by making fart noises during the prayer. And I'm like, my kid does that.
Especially, let's be honest, if you're raising boys, it's a whole different world.
Like Knox will say this prayer and you feel like it's going great. And then he'll say, A, and you're like, oh, come on, man. Like, I thought you were like,
man, we were on track to finish well.
We were doing great. And you can feel like, am I a good parent? Like, what is going on? And so, Justin Whitmel Earley, I think, does a good job of being realistic and just basically like encouraging you do something. Something is better than nothing.
Right.
Do something and stick with it. And it's helped me a ton. just that. 3 is, so this is where one place I'm cheating. I've read a lot, and a lot of this was assignments, but just this has been a year of reading books on prayer. So that's just been the topic that I've really leaned into. And these were 2 that stuck out. There's a lot of great books on prayer, but 2 that stuck out. So Pete Greig has one called How to Pray. He is the leader and founder of the 24/7 prayer movement. So he literally leads a prayer ministry. So he knows what he's talking about. This one I liked because it was just the best practical book on how to pray that I've ever read. So I've been praying a while, I thought I knew some stuff, but like reading this just gave me such good just tips that I was able to apply and was just amazing. So Pete Greig, How to Pray. And then another one so also on prayer, but very different. So Tish Harrison Warren, Prayer in the Night. And she's basically talking about praying when you don't feel like praying, praying in your suffering, praying in the hard times.
That a lot of people would speak to.
Yeah.
Because if we're being honest, prayer's a hard subject.
It is. Yeah.
I've heard some pastors say, if you want to kill a meeting, call it a prayer meeting.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Yes.
And
exactly.
so it can be difficult, and it can be doubly difficult if you're going through a hard time.
Yep.
So,
and she, I think, and I really connected with it because her hard time that she's talking about was very similar to some of the things that Allie and I went through in 2021. And so, she's a wonderful writer. It's beautiful. But basically, if you're just in a time where you're like, I don't want tips on prayer. Like, I just need to be reminded why I should be praying.
Why?
Yeah. Prayer in the Night by Tish Harrison Warren. It's beautiful. 4, so Andrew Peterson, The God of the Garden. Okay. Do you know Andrew Peterson?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Can you sing an Andrew Peterson song so they know who we're talking about? Because I don't want to do it. Wait.
Go for it, Jake.
Do you feel the world is is broken? We do. Okay, so that's that one.
That's Andrew Peterson, and he does a lot better than we do, and he has beautiful music, and during the holiday season, he has "Behold the Lamb." It's a program. Okay. Lots of fabulous things that are way better than
great. No, that was your part.
What we just demonstrated.
So he has a book as well, a couple of books, but this one, I think it came out last year was the God of the Garden, and I read it because I like Andrew Peterson. I'd read his first book and liked it. I didn't think I was going to like this one,
right? Because
it's literally like he's taking it sounds. I'm going to make it sound so dumb, and the premise is kind of dumb, but basically he takes a different tree from his life, like a memorable tree, and that's like the basis for what he writes about. But he's very creative. Obviously, you can tell that from his music. He's very creative, and it's just, I think, again, I can't even tell you all that much that I learned from this book, but I listened to the audiobook. He reads it. It's great. and it just stirred my love for God's creation. And, that is a way that I connect with God, is being in nature. And this book just reminded me, like it helped me. Like I read this book and it just reminded me my need to get out and be in nature, right? And so, when I did that, I saw it in a different way because of this book. And
That's funny because I think I follow him on Facebook, and I've seen him post pictures of those trees.
Yeah.
He's talked about. There's one tree in particular, and it's like it's got a name, and
and he's big on like. Wendell Berry is another writer who's big on like place, the importance of place. And, I don't know. Like I feel, we were gone for a while, being back in Knoxville. Like Knoxville, just there's a connection to this place. And I think that's what Andrew Peterson helps remind me of. Yeah. And so this book, if you're not the creative type, you may hate it and think it's dumb. But if you are the creative type, it's a little bit more of a poetic book, but it's just good.
If it's talking about trees, I probably need to give it to my mom.
Okay,
she's a tree lover.
Tree lover, yeah.
Tree lover.
That's good. So God of the Garden, Andrew Peterson. I should do another one just so we have to sing again, but but I won't. So another last one, 5 is another tie, and it's 2 different books that are biographies. And so one is Burning in My Bones, and the book is, I can't remember the name of the author, but it's about Eugene Peterson, who's a pastor who died in just the last couple years or so, but famous pastor. And there's another called Becoming Dallas Willard, which is on Dallas Willard. Now, and he died back in 2013. The interesting thing is these are 2 authors that I read a lot of books by them this year. A lot of it was just assigned in my homework. But I also just enjoy their writing. So I probably read, 8 books by these 2 guys.
Wow.
But what I actually liked the best was the books that were on them.
About them?
Yeah, because it was like, whoa, okay, these guys who are writing these books, like they lived it. Okay?
You see where they're getting their information.
Yeah, there's some people who write things and teach things and don't live them out. Like these guys lived it. You may disagree with their theology. You may disagree with some things about what they write. But you look at these guys' lives and they were earnestly following Jesus. Wow. They loved Jesus with all their heart. And so there were times where it was like, there was one part in Becoming Dallas Willard on his death where I'm like sitting in my car in the driveway crying because I'm just like, oh, Dallas, what did I like? But just because it was beautiful and it was amazing and it was like, oh my goodness, it's so good. And so the biographies of godly men and women are always helpful. And these 2 were like, I was able, after reading these, their books took on a different light for me, right? Like I could see, I just saw them in a different light, and I could say, okay, this is truly a man that has devoted his life, who's passed on now to be with the Lord, but devoted his life and is saying, follow me as I follow Jesus. Yeah. And so these books just were amazing. I did the audiobook that's a great tip to get more books. Go. Biographies are great on audiobook. So these 2 were amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, those sound great.
Yeah. So
of course, every time we do one of these, it adds to my list of things I need to read.
That's the point.
Yeah,
and here's the other thing. I was reading another article the other day. I read a while ago, but it was reminded me. And the article is talking about the need for an anti-library. And what that is it's the books that you have that are around that you haven't read yet. Oh. And basically the author's argument of this article was you need that to remind you all the things you don't know. Okay? You need to be
Listen, I don't need a book to remind me of all the things I don't know.
but you need to have books that you're like, okay.
There's still stuff out there that I need to
And I think also connected with that, it's good to get book suggestions from people you trust. Oh. Because there's so many books out there. So not every book is worth reading. And so, if my way, just helpful my way. So if someone's not assigning me in a program a book to read, my way of picking the book is if I hear it from one trusted source, I need to pay attention to it. If I hear it from 2, I really pay attention to it. If it's coming up over and over and over again, really pay attention to it, right? Go get it and read it. And so maybe this is one source of that, and go look around at what other people suggest. Yeah. So that's my 5 that are 7.
5 that are 7. Again, this is not a math program.
just to bring in a couple other people from staff, I just sent out an email. I was like, I knew these people read a lot, and so just got their suggestion. So Colleen Abear works here on staff in the community and connections. She works with Cindy Reynolds. So I asked her. Her favorite was Think Again by Jared Mellinger. So I haven't read this one, but here's what she said. She said, I picked this one because it challenged me the most to grow and taught me the most new information about myself and how my mind works. It was a small book, but packed with tons of insight. I love this. Highly recommend it to anyone with a brain and thoughts. So
I think that's basically everybody.
Everybody. So if you have a brain or thoughts, Colleen. So it gives you Think Again by Jared Mellinger.
Some people have thoughts without brain.
Yeah, this is true.
Just kidding.
So that's Colleen's. And then Matthew Goldstein, he's one of our ministry residents here. He did one that we're trying to work into every podcast.
You all listen to this.
We've talked about it at least 3 times already.
That's right.
But Matthew, this is how you know. He knows what he's talking about. The Gospel Comes with a House Key by Rosaria Butterfield.
Rosaria.
Yeah, so good. So good.
Yeah.
So that one, put that at the top of your list because we bring it up all the time.
There you go.
It's
there
so
you go.
good. So,
it's kind of like an Easter egg. My brother is a computer programmer.
Yeah.
And the Easter egg is the little thing that you're going to find that's hidden in every program. So, in every... I don't know, at least every book episode, there's going to have to be a way for the Gospel Comes with House.
And we talked about it in the hospitality episode because, it's a book on hospitality.
Hospitality.
Right? So it's great.
See how many we can bring up.
And then last but not least, Tara Hayes.
Tara Hayes.
What's yours?
My books are not really like sit down and read through books, but they're 2 devotional books. And really, they're more for the females.
Okay.
But there is an author who's also an artist, and I may have mentioned her in the past on here, Ruth Chou Simon, who has a website called GraceLaced, and she writes a blog and all that. She has one that's the very first book that she ever did called GraceLaced, and it's about flourishing, and it takes you through each season of the heart. So for winter, you're talking about rest. Like if you're in a place where you feel restless, like I don't feel like I'm very productive or giving much in ministry, and you just kind of feel spent, there is a time for rest. We've talked a lot about that, but it moves through the seasons. And what I love about it is it gives you that cycle, like, okay, so my heart is at rest. But then during that time, I rehearse the truth to myself. Yeah. So I'm being renewed like spring. And then in the summer, that's when God calls us to do things or to be a part of something, and we're responding in faith. Yeah. And then we come full circle where we are remembering his provision. Mm-hmm. He's given us rest. He has reminded us of his truth, and then he's given us opportunity to respond in faith. She writes beautifully, but on top of that, she is an incredible artist, and so every page is beautiful. The other one that I like by her is called Beholding and Becoming, and it's basically the premise of the book is what we behold, we become. Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's, again, speaking truth to ourselves. What are we focusing on? Are we focusing on God and his word, or are we letting external circumstances kind of overtake us? Again, these are not just books that you would sit down and read through, but and they're not like deep Bible study, but I found them especially helpful when I'm really just need a reminder of, God's grace and what he's called us to do. And it's just a little good daily read.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
Those
awesome.
are 2 of my favorites.
Yeah. Devos, see, they don't add to that number very, because they take time, but they're worth it, right?
Yeah.
They're worth it, because one of the most important things about following Jesus is keeping him before your mind, right? Because there's so much else that's trying to take our attention. Yeah. But to have something that can just guide you in that morning after morning after morning, evening after evening after an evening. That's amazing.
Yeah, I love it because, in the one, especially the GraceLaced book, she gives you multiple scripture references. And so for me, if I wanted to make that my actual devotion, I would spend time writing that out, meditating on the verses, studying, what do those verses really mean? And so you can make it more,
Yep.
or it can be, just a kind of a quick, not a quick read, but kind of a quick read.
Yeah, I love it.
So
Does she sing any songs?
Okay. She does, but I don't know them.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not singing. Not on this one anyway.
That's okay. Are you singing at Christmas at West Park?
I am.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Actually, that'll be done.
Of course,
by the time
we'll be done.
get
But
away.
if you want to see it, it'll still be on YouTube and Facebook, and our, you can go back and watch it.
Multi-talented, hosting podcasts. Singing songs.
I try. Just try to do what the Lord's put before me.
Perfect.
So, well, it's been fun, and
fun.
I think, like I said, this is going to be a quarterly, because if you're reading that many books a year, this is never a difficult topic.
Well, and choosing these were like choosing my children. So there were.
Sorry to put you under that much stress.
There were 30 that I left out that I wanted to add, and then like some that
Wow.
were like, no, that one was awful.
Yeah, maybe we just need to make a resource. We need to have like the Jake Bishop book review.
As co-host, I'm happy to do that. So,
Yeah, my co-host Jake Bishop. That's probably going to come to fruition a lot in 23. Well, thanks for the discussion. There's your book list. We will put all of that in our show notes and links to buy those. And we hope that you all enjoy those books. Thanks for being here, Jake.
thanks.
Thank you for listening to Impact the World, produced by West Park Baptist Church in Knoxville, Tennessee. If you enjoyed this episode, consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing with a friend.